Four teams remain as we look ahead to the end of TI. Welcome back to a new Meta podcast. It's episode 194. We're here to talk about TI, what we've seen so far at the end of the first stage of the main stage, ahead of the last four teams, ahead of the lower bracket semi-final tomorrow. I'm joined just by Marco. Again, Adam unfortunately couldn't make it, or rather we decided we weren't going to pod, and then popular demand, the listeners had the pitchforks out. So we'd better scramble together a duo pod ahead of finals weekend, and we'll do a big TI roundup next week with Adam, obviously. But Marco, welcome. How are you doing?
Thank you. Yeah, doing good. I was kind of waking up from a slumber of consume loads of TI, fall asleep for 4 or 5 days, real life resumes, and you just completely forget about it. Can't even remember who played and how many times I cried myself to sleep, and then all of a sudden it's TI finals tomorrow, and yeah, it's come back around.
It is really odd, actually. The break. I've sort of forgot it's happening, especially Monday, Tuesday, because when you get the grand finals, it's like closure on the event. So when you watch, it ended on Sunday with whatever the last series was, Thunder Awaken Liquid, which was a great, amazing series, but it wasn't like a final.
No.
So you're just it is this weird pause that almost makes it's almost like I've forgotten that it was happening, as opposed to being super excited for the end. Yeah. Now I've got to remember what's going on and be oh wow, it's tomorrow, So
maybe if we had a more concrete plan of watching it, you'd feel more hyped.
True.
I was super hyped to see it last weekend and see all the teams, but then again, even if you have plans to watch it, it's like you're just watching this little mini prestigious tournament of 4 teams. Yeah. It's like a restart, isn't it? It's like a new tournament.
Yeah, definitely. First things first, some just very recent in the mind housekeeping. Have you logged on to DotA in the last couple of days, Marco?
No, but I've heard there's some swag, so maybe I'll do a live on opening.
Nice.
Is it worthy? Is it?
Well, you can. It's not really an opening. It's just choosing which Arcana you want. It's a choice. It's not random.
Do you get it there and then?
You get it there and then, yeah. I've already played a game with my new Arcana, which was
choices.
All of the purchasable ones.
Arcana. So does that include Fiery Head Lena?
Yes. I played a classic game with my new Arcana with Adam yesterday. I picked Rubik. And it was just an insane throw versus Drow Ranger. One of those where rather than hitting throne, you're waiting for them to respawn in Fountain, and then Fountain diving, and then we go on to lose. Absolute classic gameplay.
It's always a fun game.
Yeah, it was fun. Drow Ranger, good hero to have crazy comebacks with, I would say. Yeah, some good stuff. You've already got PA Arcana, haven't you? Is that the only one you've got?
Adam gave me that, yeah.
Have you got
TB?
TB?
Have any others? TB? Nah, I'm not.
I've got TB.
Not interested. You got TB?
Adam gifted me TB and also gifted me Lena.
Nice. I'm trying to think what heroes have them. Does Ricky have any? I know he has some golden stuff.
No.
But no. You
do have a jug that you might be interested in.
Oh, that could be a cool one to choose.
LC as well has one.
Yeah.
Ogre has a new one. Pudge has one. You might like a Pudge one.
Which one's the Pudge?
The big hooks, on his back. And Pudge has so many crazy sets that the Arcana is just one of them. It doesn't sit apart from them, I would say. Yeah. There is also Rubik, but I don't think you play Rubik very much. There's Monkey King as well. I actually think Monkey King's is probably the coolest Arcana because it changes it changes the colour scheme based on what level. No, it depends on what level of your ult you have. The colour changes. It starts white, then goes blue, then goes green, then goes red, or some order, one of those orders, depending on when you level up Wukong's. But I think that one's a cool one. Anyway, this you can give a live update.
Does the swag bag make you feel really happy and warm inside?
Well, this is the thing I put on our group chat earlier today. It is absolutely mind-blowing how much control Valve has over the community with hats. It's like all this anti-Valve sentiment, all this hatred, instantly forgotten. Like, give everyone an Arcana and everyone's like, literally, Valve's the best company in the world. And it's not even sarcastic. It's not even like a weird sarcasm joke about how you're praising them because you want Arcanas. It's like, there are actually just loads of threads on Reddit that are just like, oh yeah, Valve are the best. We love you. Amazing. Give the people hats and you just have them in the palm of your hand.
It's funny because it's not even new content. It's just, let's go into the bin, scrape out some Arcanas that people used 10 years ago and...
Yeah.
30 days Dota Plus Pog. Try and get me hooked.
That's quite cool because you get to see the breakdown in the post-game where you see how much damage each spell has done to each hero, which is cool.
Yeah.
I do like that.
These say locked for me. I don't know if it's because coordinator's down.
May well be. Not sure.
Feels bad.
Anyway, that's a cool little thing. It's getting us in Valve's good books before they crush us with this infamous announcement that's coming. Who knows what that is?
Yeah, we still don't have any idea.
Yeah, we still don't know. What we do know, though, is all of the teams that have been knocked out of TI apart from the final four, which are Team Asta, Team Liquid, Secret, and Tundra. All of which came from the upper bracket as expected. Interestingly, Asta have already played Liquid on the main stage in upper bracket round 1.
Well, you say main stage. Stage is a bit... I don't know.
True.
To be fair, the circuit... Yeah, well, maybe we talk about the infrastructure of the event. The circuit... What is it called? The spinning stage idea, so you can have really quick turnaround between games, I think is very cool. So for anyone not aware, they have your booths of 5 monitors, but then on the other side of the wall there's another 5, and so they literally spin the stage on a circular plate between games so that you're always ready to turn around much faster. And I think that is a really smart idea, and it is nice to not have loads of downtime. When we were watching, we still looked at bits of downtime and bits of panel action, but it's not quicker, like we needed any more.
Quicker,
yeah, and it's just nice to be able to jump between the games and series a bit quicker, because like we said last year, a lot of the time you end up getting quite bad filler where it's just fluffy statements and too much time to fill for teams. So I think that aspect was really good, but the stage itself, I mean, it didn't look like TI. When you don't have booths and you just kind of on the stage, it looked like a minor, and then you've got a tiny room of people. It didn't on the same level. Yeah, it really looked like a minor apart from the spinning seats.
Yeah, it looked like an old MLG, just like everyone on one level in like an expo center.
Yeah,
as opposed to like an arena.
Because even if you think about TI3, Banner Royale Hall or whatever it's called, and it was maybe even similar number of people because it's not a massive venue, but because it's like you say, you had that gradient of seats, and you've got an actual stage at the front, and you've got actual booth with the players inside. And it was filled,
right? It was filled. It's not. This place wasn't filled. It was just like they put loads of seats out in an arena.
As in the seats weren't filled.
No. I think the seats.
Or the space wasn't
filled. The actual
filled.
Space wasn't filled. Yeah.
Yeah, because like you say, it's just seats put down. It's not like that is the space.
Yeah.
So it did feel like a bit of a B tier venue for what's meant to be an extraordinary event.
So we'll see this weekend.
I've got high hopes this weekend because when I looked on Google Maps where it is, and it seems to be this mega Singapore arena, I have got big expectations for it to be like an O2 arena vibe, like something galactic.
Right.
Hopefully I'm not disappointed. Maybe that could help make up for the fact we had this low-key arena.
Yeah, it's tough to... when you compare it to like the Shanghai Mercedes-Benz Arena and Kia Arena, it's not the same.
No.
So we'll see this weekend. Hopefully it is. Also, the panel being in Norway. What did we think about that? We talked about it in the preview, but sort of a bit weird. But then also, it's from the viewer's perspective, it's not that noticeable. It's morely just like the actual panel are just themselves probably feel more disconnected. And it's less amalgamated into the event. You don't have people coming and going like the pros, but overall they seem to have a reasonable number of the pros in. It just was very static. It wasn't like there were never any surprise pros coming in and talking. It was always just like who was it? I guess like Quinn did some casting after he was knocked out. I mean, I guess it was all just casting, wasn't it? The knocked out.
Yeah, so that's how they did it. All the pros were with the casters who were at the event, and even if when you got knocked out, like a Quinn, you're at the event with the casters, so you can do the draft. They changed it. Sometimes the panel in Norway did the draft, and sometimes the casters did the draft. That's probably it just depends on which caster trio you have, which is fine because if a player's knocked out and they're at the event and there's another analytical caster with them, then fair play. Let's hear what the pro has to say. Didn't really seem like an issue it being in Norway for the viewer. Maybe a bit of the outside the event and outside the games vibe was a bit weaker, because if you're thinking about these nostalgic previous events where it's everyone, all the casters and talent are in this same geographic location, and I feel like you get like a buzz of they're walking through the corridors, and even if you're not there in Key Arena, I feel like you still like get a sense of it being this Mecca-esque event where everyone's together and you've got content pieces in the hallway, and you've got interviews in the hallway, and you've got more mingling, and camera footage is like going around the venue and seeing all the fans. I guess when you've got a high-tech production in Norway and a kind of slim stream in Singapore, you don't get this Mecca event as much, and it felt just like another tournament.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think the justification for some of this Norway stuff was Valve are really keen to not just have the Chinese, Russian, English streams, and to have like Spanish stream and Portuguese stream like really integrated in the same way. So there's like more staff, the same number of staff overall, but like this English, whatever the established languages have to like cut back a bit to make way for these other ones. So I don't know how it feels from a viewer's perspective, like going there. I guess when you're from Singapore, I don't even know what you'd really be engaging with anyway, like in terms of the mingling and seeing stuff happening. I guess it doesn't really matter too much what the language is. I don't know what it's like.
I don't get the impression that because that venue was so small.
Yeah.
I don't get the impression that you've got a festival of Dota. That's what Key Arena always felt like. It always looked like a festival of just loads of screens outside the venue and loads of random stuff going on, stalls, exhibitions, games, people like walking around this little economy of Dota, and this just feels like when we go to Stockholm Major and it's here's a room of action and that's it.
Yeah. I think that's fair. Let's talk about the actual Dota then. So, coming out of group stage, EG, Marco, they're on top of the world. What happened?
Yeah, my prediction came through. I said, have their games been challenging enough? They weren't. What happened? Crick comes along and says, yeah, way too confident, way too ballsy, didn't respect our opponents, and we got nailed 4-0. That's what happens when you stomp. It's every ranked we've ever played. 20k net worth ahead. Game's too easy. Slip, choke, and lose. EG just did that at TI. Too far ahead.
Yeah. Strats. Also, I mean, this kind of was a wider story, and it definitely kicked off of EG. Is this SF S tier except it's not S tier anymore.
Mm.
But EG were like first pick SF was totally the thing, and when they lost game 1 to Thunder Awaken with the SF, they'd crushed groups so hard that you can't just have one loss and turn your back on your strat. So they had to have another loss. And then they dropped to play Beast Coast, and at that point they do completely abandon the SF.
Yeah.
At least the first phase SF. I mean, they don't pick it in either of the games. But by that point they're rattled. And they even get their second best strat, which is the Broodmother against Beast Coast.
But they're ready.
And it's like, but the head's already gone, do you know what I mean? And they're just a bit lost by the time they play Beast Coast. They don't have the initiative as much. And I felt like both those series, they almost lose to like crazy monkey business, sort of very aggressive Dota, apart from maybe the last game against Beast Coast where they lose to a Naga.
Yeah. With the working backwards, that first Beast Coast game where they go, SF doesn't work anymore, we need to rely on our Brood strat now. Beast Coast go, we'll give you your Brood strat and we're ready to pick against it. And we've got the prep. And if you look at Beast Coast's heroes, Maiden 5, Snap 4, Mars 3, Tiny 2, Slark 1. Every hero has an AoE ability. Literally every hero has an AoE ability, and 3 of them have 2 AoE abilities. This is how you control a Brood. Your spiders mean jack when you've got a Snapfire, Cookie, Scatterblast, or a Tiny Avatos. You're nullified. Mars, Spear, W. Brood's not a factor, and they seriously shut Brood down, and it wasn't able to choke the map and create any pressure at all. And then you had a lot on Arteezy's shoulders, and I don't know what. I think the Ember didn't have a great game.
Yeah, in that game, one Ember had a bad game.
So Hoodwink was dying quite a bit. He just didn't come off at all. But you do feel like the draft was not the Brood draft. And then the very last 4th game against Beast Coast, it felt like they were always losing, which is pretty sad. But that was a Lesh Chen Naga. Lesh is coming out as the S tier hero.
Yep.
EG never switched to this on Arbed. I don't remember seeing Arbed play Lesh. He was on the Pangos, Invokers, and Lesh is the pick. So yeah, they got just sussed out really, and thought it would be easier than it was.
Yeah, definitely. They almost were caught on the wrong end of the meta, like we said. Like their idea of what was good got sussed out, right? And it's interesting that the last game they play in the event is the first game they played on the main stage where there's a Lesh involved, and it's a Lesh for Beast Coast. With a Naga as well, which sort of has low-key been rising a bit. You know, like we've seen some Nagas do pretty well. So it's definitely surprising that EG just got whammed like that. But it makes you think back and think, what was it about the group stage that made SF look so broken? It's kind of hard. It's not like, actually, to be fair, I just realised the answer to my question, which is another big theme, is just Group B crushing all the Group A teams.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to think what would happen if EG were in Group B. Maybe they would have known SF was bad, because there were definitely 2 distinct metas out of the groups, I think. And that's why Group B literally won all of the series in upper bracket, and they won most of the series in the lower bracket section as well. So Group B basically just crushed, right? Thunder Awaken, Secret, Tundra, Asta, they're all Group B, and they won all their games 2-0. So definitely Group B had the source, had the knowledge on the meta. I mean, look at Secret, the next series against LGD, right? LGD, they come in with Enigma, which is a high value hero, and it still is a high value hero.
Yeah.
But a higher value hero is Lesh and Nyx, and Secret get Nyx and Lesh in both games. And they're both S tier heroes now.
Yeah.
More so than Enigma. So again, like Group B just like have the meta. Then also, I mean, OG and Tundra are a bit weird because both of those teams kind of have their own, a little bit less reliant on S tier meta heroes. With that said, Tundra get Visage in both games, and they get Tiny. OG do get Primal Beast and Marcy in game 2, so you could argue that even with hindsight, if you were just looking at drafts and being like, oh, the most OP heroes win, then...
But even then, so it's a similar case to EG, where they've got Primal and Marcy, who are S-tier bans in the group stage. Tundra go... We figured that out. Earthshaker is so disruptive to Primal because he's 1,000 range away using Fissure and the Shard. Primal can't move around and trample and disrupt and use his ultimate as a channel. Completely nullified. Spirit Breaker, similar idea. So disruptive. Nullified to Primal Beast.
And really good, both really good against PL as well.
Both great against PL, and then they followed up with the Lifestealer, who built correct and again is able to munch through a Primal, munch through a Timber. And it just felt like Tundra, the heroes they wanted to play, were good drafted heroes for this supposed S-tier Marcy Primal situation that OG relied on, and it was almost, you're just a step behind.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was an awesome game, to be honest, that game 2. The mid Spirit Breaker kind of was getting wrecked, but then actually was so effective in the end, particularly against PL, when PL started getting on, just charging through all the illusions. And it again, maybe they used slightly unorthodox heroes, but they had like the handle on the meta completely. The handle on the draft in that game, and like everything fit together really nicely. And then again, Liquid versus Asta. Looking back at this, it's hilarious as well. Liquid get Marcy SF in both games. They go Marcy SF.
You think that can't lose?
After groups, you think that can't lose if you've been watching Group A. And then Asta's like, well, great, we've got Lesh both games.
Yeah.
So we'll take that. And then they also have, the Pango, which I think has been rising.
Yeah.
And the rest is, just pieces to the puzzle. But basically, they get Lesh uncontested 2 games. It's like great.
Yeah, I feel like that Asta draft, the architecture of that team, and we'll go through the hero lineup. I think we did mention it as like we saw it coming together in the group stage, and I'll go into what I mean by that. Whereas, like you say, on Liquid, Marcy SF. We've got a Krob and a Beastmaster off laners in the different games. You think you're going to dominate lanes, which is what you're meant to do with SF, or that's what's happening in the groups. Beastmaster Krob should be dominating that lane as well. And Liquid, similar to EG, were stomping games from minute 10, 20, and they kind of, I guess, expected that to happen. Asta, so like you say, both games Lesh, S tier. It's doing so much damage all game, and it's so aggressive as well because they're building Blink, Bloodstone, BKB, making things happen. Like, so interesting. But Asta draft, really interesting. Sniper pos 1, Terrorblade pos 1, your backliner pew pewing, and then your pos 3, Pango, Brewmaster, running in frontline disruptive. Perfect kind of synergy. Then your pos 5, it's all about Sven and Lich. It's all about the armor 5. Yeah. Sven pos 5 has been A tier, or at tier 1. Lich has then been the alternative to when Sven is banned. Purely for this, we're going to keep you alive, keep you tanky with armor. And then you round it off.
Yeah.
And exactly against SF, it's all about right clicks, and Beastmaster, it's all about physical damage. And you round it off with a pos 4 CM or Snapfire, who's providing you that extra damage and control. Astra both times have got a draft on paper that they'll go, this is perfection. This is everything we could want. And we're able to get it because Liquid, like EG, like OG, are just going, well, we've had a couple heroes that stomped groups, so let's just rely on them again. And then you get it, and they've almost not had that experience of when SF doesn't stomp, and then you go, oh, wait, we're in a close game, it's 30 minutes, we've not got 10k net worth up. SF's, oh, God, I'm struggling to do work, and you then get a bit lost, and Astra just like, yeah, we've got this beastie lineup that's ready to roll.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Where do you want to go next? Do you want to go to the lower bracket, or do you want to talk about like the last 2 upper bracket games that we've seen? TA Secret and Tundra Astra. So should we round off with those while we're talking about these teams? I think that probably easier. So Thunder Awaken versus Secret. This is actually a fun series, if I remember correctly. And again, it's quite funny. The Group Bs coming off against each other. And this is where I think, did Rezo play Pos 3 Marcy in both these games, or was it just one? Can't quite remember. I think just one. Okay.
Was it? Because I think he played a Lesh one game.
Yeah, he played a Lesh, and he went crazy on a Lesh. Basically played like carry Lesh from offlane.
Yeah.
Also hilarious to look back at this draft. This Lesh pick is on 24, so it's the last pick of the entire draft. So it's quite funny to even think that it made it through that far, which shows that Lesh is going up and up and up, and now teams are like first picking it. By the time we get to the final day of games, teams are like first picking this Lesh. But yeah, quite fun games. I thought I'd shout out Zayak on Spirit was very fun, and these games were like, this game 1 was like Nisha Lesh.
Yeah.
Game 2, it's just more Lesh. It's just more Lesh, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it was Nisha Kunka and Lesh Rezo.
Yeah.
Game 2, was it?
Yeah, I think so. I think Thunder Awakened did play well though, and we'll see they obviously have their last game against Liquid, which we'll maybe touch on at the end, because that was like an absolutely nuts series that's quite fresh in the mind. But these secret games were quite comprehensive, if I remember correctly. Like, they were never really in doubt. It was like even for like 20 minutes or something, and then Secret just sort of run away with it a bit.
Yeah, I was looking at the graphs of net worth. It's like close for 25-30 minutes, and then starts going in Secret's favour quite a lot, and it didn't feel like a crazy TI back and forth. It felt like Secret had quite a lot of were quite close but comfortable, and then 30 minutes comes, they crack through. And
I think one thing that I might point out about this game is, and we'll see this when we start talking about the lower bracket games in the tournament coming on, is the meta almost going from one core, right, this like SF dream lineup, to two cores, like 2 heavy damage dealing cores. So and Lesh is almost there. Like, Lesh is certainly really high damage, but he's also like very tanky with Bloodstone and BKB. But Secret have this Drow Ranger that almost by itself just means that you're going to scale into winning the game, right? And there were some other games where I know Liquid have ran like this leaner Drow, and then it's like you've got 2 ultra scaling cores, and then you've got a really disruptive hero like Pangolier or Mars or Brew, and this game was almost a sort of precursor to that, and showing that Lesh, not only, this is why it's so S tier, not only does the Lesh provide really nice mid-game, like, fighting. As soon as you get Bloodstone, you're really tanky, you get it like 15 minutes, great, and you can absorb loads, and you're dealing out loads of damage. But that scales into the late game, you pick up Blink Hex, right? And then you're like this Blink Hex, BKB, high damage, and tanky. It's like you've got everything. And behind that, you have a Drow or a Lina or whatever, usually a carry, right? So usually a Drow, that mega scales, right? Drow's like the ultimate scaling POS 1. So, yeah, like you said, it was even for a while, but it's like a Morph on his own is just not going to stand up to that. And the other 2 cores are a Mars and a Pango. Like, they're obviously going to fall off in comparison.
Yeah.
Do you remember much about this Asta Tundra game, Marco? Is the other upper bracket semi-final?
So game 1, Tundra Doom.
We highlighted game 2 of this, didn't we? I remember. And we watched game 1.
Oh, yeah. So it was Doom off lane, CK1, Pango 9, I think, and then Asta got Marcy. Was it? POS 1 slot. It's a long game, that 49 minutes, but I don't really remember. Is that because it was like really late or something watching this one?
I remember Tundra playing really, really well. I remember being really impressed, and a couple of things stood out to me. One, just on a draft sense, everyone had been banning Doom first phase against Tundra, and I didn't really know why. I was like, interesting, because no other team, this isn't a ban versus any other team, and then they And then for Tundra, they do pick it first phase, and then they win it. And 33 was the only reason this gold lead that I'm looking at the graph wasn't more. So they actually did feel not very far behind, but they did feel behind in this game. Tundra did. And it was basically Doom that had tons of net worth that kept the graph similar. Also, Skitter on CK used his ult off cooldown, like not for fights. He would just pop ult and then just scout with illusions. Okay. And certainly when they were taking sieging and running around, he'd pop ult, then just move forward with one of his illusions. And the range, if you use W, you drag in all your illusions from like such a crazy range around CK. That didn't even matter. So I really felt like Skitter was just like spamming ult. Like he wasn't waiting at all. And ultimately I felt like Tundra outplayed Asta in this game. Like they really had their number. Also, another thing to mention about this game was this was the lane where 33 got that like electric creep on Doom and was like zapping.
Shit on the Slark.
Absolutely shit on the Slark, yeah. That was very nasty. Although I think that their safe lane also kind of got wrecked a bit by this Mars. But yeah, kind of dirty on.
33 did play well at dominating the lane so hard. So Monet's item timings are really rough. 13-minute power tread, 17-minute diffusal, and I don't think there's much other items, if any, in between that. So it was a really slow Slark farm and build up, and yeah, the rest of the game was still tough and tight, and the rest of Asta's heroes can still do work, but it was almost like it took too long for the Slark to become online. Meanwhile, you've got the Doom getting mega farm, and the rest of 9 and CK got pretty good net worth by the end as well. There were a few really big Doom pick-offs, and he knows the hero, and Tundra know the hero, and it's like one of those where you don't see it all tournament, and then see it one time and get wrecked because it's a speciality of the team. Yeah. So yeah, Tundra, I do agree they have been playing well. You can't dispute that.
Yeah. And then game 2, we watched highlights, but I remember being annoyed that Ori wasn't pressing BKB on Storm.
Oh, that was
and
bad.
Was dying, and they were ahead,
weren't they? Quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had a really solid lead. Ori on the Storm was doing well. God, Monet ends that game 2-1-1 in 40 minutes. How's that even possible? Yeah, there was a lot of Ori jumps in and dies. That did happen a good few times, which is real bad.
Yeah,
a bit of a joke.
Yeah, let's move on to the lower bracket games then. So,
yeah,
do you want to have a word on this RNG entity game? 100k net worth lead or whatever.
To the BO1s. Okay, I was going to make a comment. Well, yeah, we can cover the BO1s a little bit. This is a game for the highlights. Thank God we didn't watch this live, just for time efficiency. Yeah. 1 hour, 47 minutes. That is bonkers. Really sad that RNG didn't make it through. I mean, it's hard to digest this game. All I can say is go watch the highlights. Mega exciting. Lots of divine rapiers. It was weird how it lasted so long. When we were watching it, we were saying, you've got Entity with Visage Birds, Lycan Zoo, Panda Zoo, and it somehow took them 90 minutes to get Megas. Yeah. It's like, how can you not throw all these Zoo minions at, like, split push them, or just rat RNG and with all these minions? I don't know how or why they didn't do it, and fortunately they had a 120k gold lead that then was enough to get them over the line. That, in fact, reduced to 80k, so a 40k swing. Absolutely bonkers numbers. Somehow RNG are holding. I don't think they have any right to hold or remain in the game. The only comment I really have is that I wish they did more backdoor play. They did a Pit Lord Uber one time and got the tier 4s of Entity, despite being 100k behind. I really wish they tried it once or two more times, because that was probably the only way they'd ever win. Backdoor Uber. I mean, they're under a lot of pressure when you got Megas and all this, but yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, I think the other best of ones I don't really have a lot to say on, I don't think. I mean, Spirit losing to Boom, I guess, is notable because they're the reigning champs. But not entirely unexpected, at least by you/us. I know you predicted a bit of a Spirit flop, but that was borne out, I guess. What was the comment you were going to make on? Was it about EG or something, or
about the post BO1? So the main event. In this part 1 of the main event, we've had 14 series, 14 best of 3s. Do you want to guess how many went to 3 games?
It's been really low, hasn't it? I know that all of the upper bracket has. I don't know about lower bracket. I don't know. Is it like I don't know. 4, 5?
It's 4. So out of 14 games, 10 have been 2-0.
Wow.
Which going to like the meta of our viewing experience, even just from a drafting point of view, when you get to that 3rd game, you've gone through an evolution of hero drafts, strategy, meta, and the game 3 often then is going to be a bit spicy or different, new. 10 have gone 2-0. That is really bizarre. And like you say, Group B have dominated a lot of that. But I do feel like from a viewing point of view, it's like when we went to Stockholm Major and we were watching loads of 2-0s because OG kept 2-0ing everyone, and I was like, fuck's sake, I want to watch some Dota. I don't want 2-0s, and yeah, we've had a lot of them so far.
Mm-hmm. In fact, speaking of OG, that was the first team that gave us a best of 3. A game 3 rather, against Gaming Gladiators, which they did come through. They won 2 games on Naga. One was on a support though, if I remember correctly. OG just as a team, so they lost to Tundra 2-0. Then they beat Gaming 2-1, and then they lost to Liquid 2-0.
Yeah.
Wow, they got absolutely crushed by Liquid. I remember the game 1 was actually okay. It's funny because it ends in 34 minutes, but I felt like they were in the game, and it was quite back and forth, and then it just suddenly fell apart to pure scaling damage from Lina Drow. So this was that game where they had the classic Liquid, 2 beefy. Basically, they have Insania playing Undying 5. He's got 1 death, so he played just mega tanky, hard to kill. Then they've got 2 ultra disruptive heroes on Zai Pango and Boxy on Marcy. Then they've got 2 ultra scaling hard carries in Lina and Drow Ranger. And OG, for a while, they had this. Amar had a good game. He had Blink really early with Vanguard. He was really tanky. They were getting Blink stun pickoffs. They had
Tiger on Shadow Demon did a lot of work.
Yes, they had
he had an 11-minute Aether Lens, which was POS 3 level of farm at one point, somehow just from kills. And
yeah, and they also had BZM Lesh, which was doing fine work.
Yeah, doing fine.
And then it just suddenly switched. And I remember in this game also, Yuragi, I'm pretty sure, had a horrendous game in general. He got wrecked in the lane and never recovered. Interesting, he's got the lowest damage of OG on the whole team.
Yeah,
the same as
he's got 7 deaths, 175. He was getting bodied by Liquid. Misha probably was feeding a little bit. It felt like they weren't playing very well.
Yeah, and then game 2, I think OG just lose their mind and pick our Scar off lane, and
this was awful.
And just get absolutely ruffled from minute 0. I'm pretty sure this was ultra
first phase Huskar POS 3. I mean, any Amar haters out there, come to my house and have a party. What is this guy thinking?
Yeah, that was not good.
That
was bad.
That's I don't know what he's thinking. Obviously, he's a good player. He's got good strats, good ideas, but
yeah, that's him being tilted from how much they got wrecked in game 1 and being I need to just pretend I'm a Smurf or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm just going to try and play Huskar.
It feels almost it feels disrespectful to then have that mindset of I just need to stomp this game like it's a pub because I'm so good, and give Liquid no respect for their players and drafting because you first phased it, so you're saying come and counter me and I'll still win, which is what? And it's not like you're Wings Gaming in the grand final TI or like the upper bracket final where they've stomped everyone and they're picking Techie's Pudge because they're stomping. It's like you've just lost like 3 games in a row. You're on
to be fair to Amar though, you can. I think if we give him the benefit of the doubt, you could say they got kind of worked in game 1, so they need to do something different. And it's picked 8th, so they've seen Lesh, Nick, Tusk, so there will be a reason why.
But then it still makes no sense to me because unless he didn't want to put Huskarth as a 3 and wanted it as a 1 or 2 and then something made him change his mind. I don't even think that's the case because he picks it first phase. If he knew he was playing it as a 3, well, he doesn't know what lane he's against. Lesh and Tusk are in the mid and the off lane. So then Liquid in second phase picks CM Bloodseeker and absolutely annihilate Huskar because they just cast the spells and Huskar gets wrecked. And I mean, he doesn't even adjust to the fact that his lane's horrendous and unwinnable.
Mm-hmm.
So I just don't get it. And then they last pick a Fury on. Holy moly, that was completely unimpactful.
Yeah.
Drums, Mage Slayer, Pos1, Fury. Pff, they just get last pick Brood on Team Liquid with a Lesh and a Tusk to get on top of you. What's a Fury on last pick going to do against Lesh and Tusk? Never mind the Brood that comes after you.
Yeah.
It just felt like the drafting was dog on OG for both upper bracket and lower bracket games. Like they had Pos 3 sanking in game 1 against Tundra, and I have some respect for ATF. Fucking hell, give him a sanking main stage upper bracket. You're taking the piss.
They won a game on sanking though.
Yeah, but groups
against Gaming Gladiators though, so you know.
Did they have sanking that game?
Yeah, Mar played sanking against Gaming, and that was a lot better.
That was the Omega. Yeah, this series, BZM Invoker were the 2 wins.
Yeah,
Omega carrying.
Omega. Also, do you remember how much BZM carried game 2 on Pango? The only thing that could rival his carrying was the Yuragi. Yuragi had to chrono his own Pango to make OG lose.
This was actually one of the best series of the main event because a lot of them were quite one-sided, and this was a 3-gamer. But you've just jogged my memory with that Pango Void Chrono play. Oh,
chronoed both his cores, didn't he? Didn't he miss everyone?
He missed the storm.
Oh, he missed the storm, yeah.
And then chronoed 2 of his own team, who then just got wrecked. This was the worst Void game.
Yuragi lost his mind in this game.
Oh my god. It's impressive that they managed to come back and win the 3rd one. BZM had to go God mode, but yeah, game 2, Yuragi Void was hilarious. Oh my god, he hit about 1 in 10 chronos.
Yeah.
Oh god.
Oh, it reminds me of do you remember, this is jumping way ahead, but Thunder vs Liquid, the Pakaz Pudge that was 80% hook accuracy.
Yeah.
And Yuragi's on 20% chrono accuracy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, good stuff. So beyond that, LGD, so they beat Boone 2-0 and they looked pretty good in those games, comfortable. Then they have a little scare versus Beast Coast. They win that 2-1. And I actually don't remember almost anything about this series. I know that Beast Coast were COVID'd up. It was just Chris Luck on the stage. But beyond that, I remember the last game, they put Sven carry, didn't they? And it was looking really rough for them in game 3 for a little while. And then Arme Sven just came in and was one-shotting heroes.
Yeah, that was a tough game 3, because it was the Whisper Bat Rider.
Ah, yeah, crazy,
and he's crazy sick Bat Rider going mental. He did it in the groups and really dominant, but then Sven and Arme with the IO to boot. And then there was a couple moments where, there was one in particular, they just got a Rosh, I think, or just got a team wipe, and Beast are going up the mid lane thinking all's well and fine. They're not even near the ramp yet, and literally in less than a second, there's been a Barra charge, 5-man, hits 5 heroes. Sven has blinked in with God Strength BKB, 2-shot half the team, 3-shot the other half of the team, and literally like a blink of an eye, they were wiped, and everyone was just like, what happened? It was in really quality play.
Yeah, that was a sick play. I remember that really well, actually.
Yeah.
Now you've mentioned it, and this was when I called it in the draft. When I said if they pick Shadow Demon on 24, then I'm going to leave, because I was like calling for the Sven to be pos 1, and no one, including the other team, thought it would be, because they last ban Faceless Void and Morphling.
Yeah.
And then they pick a Spirit Breaker last, and it's interesting because Shadow Demon hadn't even been picked yet in the tournament. So I foresaw the future that Shadow Demon would become pickable. But yeah, then they put Arme Sven pos 1, and it was great. It looked good. I mean, it was maybe a bit of a tough start. I know he died in the lane to the he died twice really early in the lane to the Whisper Bat.
Yeah.
But then just basically got the head down, got the farm going, and then got that sick play around the mid tier 2.
Yeah.
Where just completely catch Beast Coast off guard, who think that they're going to go high ground and not be contested, and then suddenly they get boomed.
Yeah, it is. It feels like quite a, like if you said Sven Arme, you'd feel like it's one of his heroes, and then in Jin-Q IO, we've seen him in the grand final TI wanting to play IO, so you're like, yeah, this must be a pretty solid LGD duo to have Sven IO. Now you'd see many teams running that, and yeah, it was some impressive carry play.
Yeah.
And they had Lesh in game 2 as well on LGD. Like, honestly, Lesh's win rate at main event must be friggin' strong.
Unbelievable, yeah.
Clicking through all these games, Lesh is on the winning side so often. I don't know if it ever... I feel like it didn't lose at the main event.
OG lost with it once against
OG.
Liquid. Yeah. But other than that, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, and then the first game, Beast Coast won. Visage, Void, Storm. It's quite a long one, 52 minutes. I don't really remember it. Whisper, Visage. Seems strong. K1 Hector, Void. I feel like it was... I don't know what happened, really.
This was the Void where it was just like catch, drow in chrono. That's all you need to do. That's all I remember about this one. And in the end he got like refresher, and he had like 3 chronos because they got another Roche or something. And he was just like chrono, just kill drow, and then like they had nothing left. It felt like,
yeah, it was all on Dro's shoulders.
Yeah. This Liquid versus Entity game was kind of interesting and very close. I remember the game 3 because Stormstormer played Puck and was like had Octarine and was just unkillable and had a million spells of cooldown. But in the end, the Matumba Lifestealer like came through and was too strong. Yeah. And Zai was on some Enigma, with black holes and stuff. I think this series was like quite an epic one. Obviously 3 games, and the games were quite long. So Entity had a decent run, kind of, I guess. I mean, expectations were maybe quite high because they crushed the European quals, but they almost beat Liquid, who are still in the tournament. So
yeah, tough draw really. RNG is a quality team, mega long game, and Liquid is a tough team to come against.
Yeah.
In the lower bracket. Well, it's interesting in that draft, they've got 3 tinies on Entity every game, like a tiny each game, and then Liquid have a Enigma each game, and then the 2 wins that Liquid have, Matu Lifestealer. And I would have always thought Matu Lifestealer is one of his heroes, along with your obvious Syllabur and other kind of stuff, but Matu Lifestealer feels like a hero. And oh my god, I don't think I would have ever thought you could carry games as much on a Lifestealer. Like, I like playing it, but I don't like playing it in pubs when I have to carry. I like playing it in ranked when you get loads of space and your team's really active and all this easy peasy stuff. Bloody hell, he seriously carried hard on Lifestealer. And it was good drafts. Like, he was playing it into a tiny, playing it into a core pudge. So you are chomping those heroes. What's its face? Jakiro, even a Puck earlier on, you're quite happy to rage through the spells, so often it is a strong pick, but no one else really plays it outside Matu.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Entity, their 1 win was the Sniper, which looked really powerful. in Liquid, despite having an Enigma with Jump and a Tusk. And I think Pudge probably got Blink eventually, and a mid-laner. They just couldn't reach the sniper ever, and there was a Dirge and Tiny and Clockwork and even a Lesh protecting the sniper, and the sniper went mega, which was cool to see. And again, it's that Lesh gameplay with a backline carry.